Prepare your tissues and brace yourself for some shocking facts, as this recap will unveil a tragic story about the Native American tribe being killed by white people. Adapted from the book Killers of the Flower Moon, this narrative reveals how white people exploited the Native Americans' lack of knowledge to annihilate them, all for the sake of acquiring the tribe's land and wealth. Be aware, this recap contains spoilers. Make sure to watch until the end and leave your comments. This film is set in the year 1918, where the Osage Elders are conducting a pike burial ceremony. This ritual is a symbol of their Indian descendants adapting and assimilating into a new culture. They will incorporate the English language into their customs and accept white people as their teachers. Despite their deep sadness, they reluctantly accept this change. This necessity arose after being relocated to a piece of land now known as Oklahoma, where the Osage natives discovered abundant oil resources. The Osage tribe retained mineral rights to this land and sovereignty that would later form the Osage Reservation for their independence. Owning the discovered oil transformed the Osage Nation into one of the wealthiest of that era. However, due to limited knowledge and communication, Congress enacted laws mandating guardians for each Osage member. Whether of pure or mixed blood, they were required to have a white guardian to manage their wealth until they could prove their competence. Historically, many white people worked as drivers or servants for the Osage Indian tribe. Some even settled and lived in the Osage settlements, where the Native American Indians resided. As history has shown, the white people used cunning methods, including marriage, as a legal way to steal their wealth. Numerous Osage tribe members died under mysterious circumstances without any investigation. The film scene then shifts to a bus. In this story, we focus on a handsome man named Ernest Burkhart, who has just returned from World War I. Many of the bus passengers are white people heading to the Osage town in search of employment. Upon arrival, Ernest is welcomed by Henry Roan, a native Osage Indian who picks Ernest up and takes him to his uncle, William King Hale's house. There, Ernest meets his brother Byron, who had been living there earlier. Hale, considered the king of Osage Hill, is a white man trusted by the Indian tribes and owns a vast ranch. He is also entrusted as the deputy sheriff in the town. Like most white people, Ernest's purpose in coming to the town is to find employment. Byron called him there to live and work with their uncle, but since Ernest is not very skilled, Hale thinks a taxi driver job is the best fit for him. This is where the story begins. After some time working as a driver, Ernest offers a ride to Mollie, a wealthy Osage woman from a rich family. In this scene, we are also introduced to a white man named Kelsey Morrison, Ernest's comrade from World War I, who now lives in the Osage town and is married to a pure-blood Indian woman. Some time had passed, and Ernest had become Mollie's regular taxi driver, a fact known by Hale. Aware that Mollie was the daughter of Lizzie Q, who held oil royalty rights, Hale encouraged Ernest to marry Mollie. He told Ernest that by blending family relations, money would flow correctly. The property and royalties from the original Native American descendants would legally belong to Ernest if he married Mollie, making it a smart business investment. Ernest, essentially a man not very bright and greedy for wealth, eventually began to court Mollie. Eventually, he genuinely fell in love with Mollie's gentleness and kindness. Mollie had 3 sisters, Retta, Minni, and Anna. Of the 3, only Minni was married, and her husband, a Caucasian man named Bill Smith, was part of their circle. At that time, they were celebrating a party, and Retta told Mollie that perhaps Ernest was sincerely in love with her. After all, he shouldn't worry about running out of money given his wealthy uncle. Eventually, they decided to marry and live together as husband and wife. However, in the midst of this happiness, Minni, Mollie's sister, was unwell. Minni had a genetic red blood cell disorder. In this situation, Hale approached her and told her not to fear hospital treatment. With many victims from the Osage community, Minni was always afraid to travel far from home for treatment. Yet again, Hale reassured her to seek immediate hospital care. Years passed, and after Ernest had children with Mollie, Minni died due to her illness. Time moved on, and by 1921, Ernest and Mollie were blessed with 2 children. Their home was now filled with several servants and Caucasian workers. Soon after, Anna visited their home. In a drunken state, she embraced Byron, whom she had long fancied, and asked him to marry her. Uncomfortable, Byron pushed her away, refusing to marry her. Ernest had to calm the situation. In another story, the murder of another Osage tribe member occurred. He was Charles Whitehorn. His body was found on an oil mining hill, a mile from the city center. The news spread and reached Ernest and Byron. They suspected another conspiracy by white people. In a different scene, Anna was now with her mother, Lizzie Q. Lizzie told Anna to stay until morning, but Ernest disagreed and asked Byron to take Anna home. Despite Mollie's bad feeling, Ernest reassured her that everything would be fine with Byron. However, a week later, while feeding her child, Mollie received tragic news. Anna's body was found near Fairfax City's cliff. 2 local doctors performed an autopsy in front of Mollie, revealing that Anna had been dead for about a week with a bullet wound in her head. After 2 Osage murders in quick succession, Mollie and Ernest met with the Osage Council. They discussed finding the murderer. Mollie and her family had raised a $5,000 reward for capturing the killer. Mollie even hired a private investigator for the case. Hale, also present, pledged $1,000 for the investigation and urged anyone with information about Anna's killer to report to him first. Having lived in the town for years and being a donor, Hale was highly trusted by the Osage Elders. The council decided to send a white man named Barney to Washington, D.C. to seek direct help in the investigation and additional security for the Osage town. Later, Ernest and Mollie were at Anna's body before her burial, where they met Bill Smith, who had married Retta a year after Minnie's death. In short, Mollie then met with a private detective named William J. Burns. She asked him to investigate Anna's case. In his investigation, he revealed that Anna had returned home first and left her bag there, indicating Byron indeed took Anna home. Initially suspecting Byron, they now turned their suspicion to Bill Smith. Not without reason, throughout Minnie and Bill Smith's marriage, they had no children due to Minnie's illness. After Minnie's death, Bill Smith married Retta, possibly to maintain an heir. In William's investigation, Bill Smith was the busiest in seeking information and investigating Anna's death independently. The fact found was that Anna died pregnant. William theorized that Bill Smith might be connected to Anna's pregnancy. He had found out who actually killed Anna and would reveal it after gathering more evidence. Shortly after meeting the private detective, Ernest, having learned about Anna's case, immediately informed his uncle about Anna's pregnancy and Bill Smith's ongoing investigation into her murder. A few weeks later, we were introduced to 2 doctors known as the Shawn brothers. Mollie's diabetes, which she suffered from, made Ernest take her to them. Hale was the one who recommended the Shawn brothers to Ernest and Mollie. At that time, they said that Hale had ordered the best insulin for Mollie's future treatment. However, in reality, after some time, Mollie's condition only worsened. Suspicious, Mollie asked Ernest to cancel the treatment given by the doctors, but Ernest assured Mollie that nothing could harm or betray her as long as he was with her. Eventually, Mollie agreed to continue the treatment, but she requested that Ernest inject the insulin himself. Meanwhile, tragedies continued in Osage City. Barney, sent by the Osage Council to Washington, D.C. for help, was found dead with several stab wounds in his stomach. Not only that, a private detective hired by Mollie was suddenly attacked in a hotel by some people. Since that incident, Detective J. Burns suddenly disappeared. In short, Lizzie Q., who had been ill for years, finally passed away. Thus, the rights to the inheritance she left were now held by Ernest's family and Bill Smith. Time passed. Specifically in 1923. Hale was shocked to hear that Mollie, who was ill, was now pregnant with Ernest's 3rd child. From here, Hale showed his true nature as a greedy and cruel white man. He manipulated his own nephew for his ambition to take over the Osage wealth. Hale told Ernest that actually Henry Roan was Mollie's first husband, because in Osage culture, their descendants who were 15 years old would be married to other pure-blooded Indians to ensure that when they grew up, they could produce offspring and keep their culture alive. Even though Mollie did not continue her relationship with Henry, in Osage status and culture, she remained Henry Roan's first wife. In conclusion, this complicated relationship status would hinder and complicate their full inheritance rights. Ernest, who was not very smart, was easily manipulated by his uncle. King Hale asked Ernest to plan Henry Roan's murder. With his love for his wife and children, Ernest did not want anyone else to disturb his family. For months, Ernest tried to find a way to kill Henry. Finally, he hired a killer named John Ramsey to approach and kill Henry. Henry, who really liked drinks, was easily approached by Ramsey by offering him some illegal drinks. They always spent time together on the hillside, just drinking until drunk. Ernest and Ramsey's initial plan was to make it look like Henry committed suicide while drunk. Ernest also emphasized to Ramsey to shoot Henry right in the forehead and leave the gun in Henry's hand. However, because Ramsey was too nervous to kill, he shot Henry from behind and returned the gun to Ernest. The news of Henry's death scared the Osage people, causing them to install decorative lights in front of their houses to avoid murder. Some of them even decided to move to the city. And a few months later, Mollie and Ernest's 3rd child, named Anna, was born. During the child's birth ceremony, Mollie saw that almost everyone present was white, showing that fewer and fewer Osage people remained in their original area. Even Mollie's remaining family was only Retta. However, not long after, another tragedy occurred. Retta's house was blown up into pieces, killing Bill Smith and Retta. Mollie's sorrow and despair increased. Not only had all her family died, but her diabetes was also getting worse. Because of this, she decided not to trust anyone, including her husband. Sick, Mollie forced herself to go alone to Washington, D.C. Ernest allowed it because Mollie said she would go on a solo vacation, But actually, Mollie met with the president and told the truth about what had happened in Osage City. On the other hand, Ernest, who could be called foolish, was seen with his uncle and Byron at the Shown doctors. Hale asked the doctors to add some extra medicine to Mollie's insulin, claiming it would calm Mollie's condition. Unbeknownst to Ernest, that medicine was actually poison that would worsen Mollie's illness. After Mollie returned home, their third child, Anna, had an increasingly severe cough. Mollie's fear of caring for her beloved child led her to decide to entrust the child to the Indian tribe for traditional treatment. Meanwhile, Ernest did what his uncle ordered, unknowingly injecting the poison into his own wife. In short, after the tragedy that befell the Osage Indians reached the federal authorities, the Investigation Bureau sent Agent Tom White to handle the case in Osage City. He visited Ernest's house to meet Mollie. Ernest, greatly surprised by the visit from the federal agents, kept them away, claiming Mollie was very sick and asking Tom to come back 3 days later after Mollie's condition improved. At night, Ernest immediately told Hale about the federal agents coming to investigate the Osage City murders. And from here, William Hale showed his rottenness as a white man. Hale rushed to the insurance office to claim $25,000 from Henry Roan's death. However, unfortunately, he failed to do so because in murder cases, Henry Roan's insurance had been transferred to the main office in Denver. Hale then tried to cover his tracks by killing some of his hired killers. He manipulated A.C. Kirby, who had blown up Rita's house, telling him to leave Fairfax City immediately. Before A.C. Kirby left, Hale revealed that there was a jewel stored in a dance school. But in reality, Hale had informed the dance school owner that there would be a robbery tonight by some white people. Ultimately, during a night robbery, A.C. Kirby was fatally shot as his arrival was anticipated by the school owner. Meanwhile, Blackie Thompson survived but was captured during a bank robbery. This is where Hale's corruption and his allies were exposed. Blackie revealed everything he knew about Hale's plans, including Hale's order to kill his own nephew Ernest. Additionally, the first white person we see, Kelsey Morrison, was also involved in Hale's devious schemes. As a result, Tom White uncovered the truth and captured Hale's accomplices with Blackie's confession. Ernest could no longer deny his involvement. John Ramsey, who killed Henry Roan, was also captured. On the other hand, agents seeking to meet Mollie were shocked by her helpless state due to illness. They rushed her to the hospital for further treatment. As the trial began, Ernest initially refused to testify and stood by his uncle. However, after losing his third child to illness, Ernest confessed to all his crimes, aiding Hale in controlling the Osage City's oil mining. The trial revealed that Barney's murderer, en route to Washington, D.C., was Blackie Thompson, paid $500 by Hale. Another fact uncovered was that Ernest and Byron attacked private detective William J. Burns, under direct orders from their uncle. It was also revealed that Kelsey Morrison killed Anna. In his confession, he admitted to killing Anna with Byron in a ravine while Byron was supposed to take Anna home. Hale had instructed Byron to meet Kelsey at a bar and kill Anna. During the trial, Ernest admitted to hiring John Ramsey to kill Henry. However, Hale manipulated Ernest into this murder to claim Henry's insurance, which was thwarted by federal authorities taking over the Osage City cases. William Hale's actions were solely for his benefit. The murders in Osage City were his wicked plan against the Native American tribe. Ernest was his final target if his plan to poison Mollie had succeeded. Thus, the inheritance rights would fully transfer to Hale, the eldest guardian and blood relative. Ernest, admitting to his uncle's orders, whether knowingly or not, proved his involvement in Hale's plans. However, at the trial's end, he declared his meeting with Mollie was not planned by his uncle, professing his love for his wife since their first meeting. After the trial, Mollie confronted Ernest in a room where he assured her of his honesty and confessions. But when Mollie asked about the medicine he had been injecting her with, Ernest, confused and anxious, replied it was insulin. On hearing this, Mollie left. Mollie later realized the medicine was poison, raising doubts about Ernest's awareness. In the film's narrative, Ernest is portrayed as easily manipulated by his uncle due to his lack of intelligence. The film concludes with the aftermath of the Osage City murders. The Shown brothers, who assisted Hale in poisoning Mollie, were released due to insufficient evidence. Byron, Hale's accomplice, was temporarily jailed then released, with the jury considering Hale as the mastermind. Eventually, Ernest and Uncle Hale received life sentences. Ernest was paroled in 1937 and returned to Osage City to live with Byron. After the trial, Mollie divorced Ernest and remarried in 1928. She passed away from her illness in 1937. With their relationship severed, Ernest no longer had rights to Mollie's wealth. In 1947, Hale was released for good behavior, despite protests from the Osage tribe. The film Killer of the Flower Moon portrays some of the tragic murders reflecting the cruelty and corruption of white people towards the Osage Native Americans. The film ends in the present day, showing the Osage tribe celebrating a grand ceremony, symbolizing their resilience and cultural preservation despite past oppression and colonization. Do you have a different opinion about these facts? Do you have any movie recommendations for a recap? Write your comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.